The CIT program is designed to help officers as well as community members understand how to de escalate situations once they've identified that it's a mental health situation. It teaches law enforcement a different approach to working with somebody who's in a mental health crisis. And what I will say is CIT not only benefits the officer by increasing their knowledge, it benefits peers in the community as well as family members by allowing them to connect with law enforcement and utilize the services that are available, as well as to feel a comfort level with law enforcement, knowing that they're de-escalating the situation in a calmer way. And the goal is to humanize mental illness and to allow them to truly hear the stories, which isn't always the case when there's a crisis situation going on that an officer needs to de-escalate.
I see a lot of hope in the CIT program. It's definitely a shift within the law enforcement field to be more trauma informed and to respond to mental health crisis with an idea of de-escalation in mind rather than confrontation.
I'm a presenter for CIT because I've had a little interaction with law enforcement and it's been positive, and I just really want, law enforcement to be able to have that basis of knowledge to be able to intervene in a crisis in an effective manner. It's not always that law enforcement has bad intentions. It's usually they just don't have the knowledge. And I think seeing individuals living with mental illness as humans and seeing that side of it can really help when law enforcement is intervening, because they have individuals with mental illness, they have family, they have loved ones, they have hopes, dreams, they're just like everyone else. So it's really good to see the human side of it when they go to a crisis, they do know, this is a person. It's not just someone, that we have to deal with. Like, it's a person with hopes, dreams, and a future.
I speak with CIT because I've had law enforcement involvement in when my mental illness was at its worst, and it was not something I knew was going on. I didn't know I was as off as I was. I speak for CIT because it gives me hope for the future. I also have a son with mental illness, and I want someday, if he were to need law enforcement involvement, which I hope he never does, but I hope that I should be able to call upon our law enforcement without having hesitation that something might happen to him because maybe he's aggressive. Another reason I speak with CIT or for CIT is because it helps me heal. Through my law enforcement involvement, I could tell you stories of where I was traumatized, and I could also tell you stories where officers met me with compassion. They need to know from the voices of people who've been through the system of what helps and what hurts and how they can move forward and deal with people in mental health crisis in a way that's going to be safe, and in a way that's going to not traumatize the recipients of their care.
When you're in that kind of state as a person that's having psychotic episodes, you are not hearing what anyone's telling you to do. You're in a completely different world, and so I understand where officers, need to use that kind of force at some point for their safety and the safety of the person involved. But really understanding mental illness and communication techniques that work more on de-escalating a person in that setting, I think are more effective.
I think when I speak of some of my most things that were the most traumatizing, they're shocked that some of those things happened to me while I was in law enforcement care, but at the same time they're very warm and receptive and encouraging. I think it's humbling for me to be able to speak, but it's also, I think, humbling for them to be able to listen to the stories of our peers as we talk, or our family members as we talk about how law enforcement has crossed paths with us and touched our lives. So I think the CIT is an amazing program.
If I am going to call 911 and I know a CIT officer's coming, that brings the anxiety level down a lot, because I know, as I did previously with the CIT officer, I pretty much watched them with awe, because I thought, wow, they had an open body posture, they spoke very calmly to my son, and it just makes the world a difference.